Good morning, everyone. My drug expert topic is Bidaconil. Before we move on to the topic, let me ask you a few questions. These are few questions that are frequently asked about this drug. So, can anyone tell me what is Bidaconil? Which class of drug is this? For what it is used?
Anti-TB, used for multi-drug resistant tuberculosis.
Yeah, okay. It is correct. It is a diaryl quinoline compound antimicrobial drug, which is actually used for multi-drug resistant tuberculosis. See, we already have many drugs for the treatment of tuberculosis, and we have many drugs, first line drug, second line drug, and many drugs for the treatment. What was the necessary for this particular drug introduction? Anyone?
Resistance.
Maybe drug
As Sharat told, I think it's because of resistance.
Yeah. Like the drug that was specifically introduced for the treatment of TB was rifampicin isoniazid. That was in 1960s. After that, we could see many cases that were resistant to this particular drug, and we could see more cases of multi-drug resistant tuberculosis, right? So in the year 2015, bidaconal was found, which was specifically to treat TB patients, those who were resistant to rifampicin, isoniazid, and many other drugs like this. And um, it was like it has shown beneficial effects in phase 2b and phase 3 trial, in which and few clinical trials also report that this bidaconal as like in those clinical trial death rates were little higher and adverse reactions were more. So there was a confusion whether this drug can be used or not. Then a few regulatory authorities like US FDA, CDC and all, they gave permission to use this drug with certain criteria and guidelines when and how this drug can be used, so that some eligible patients who come under those criteria can get benefited from this drug under certain conditions. Later, WHO issued interim guidance under which this bidaconil can be used for MDR TB patients. Understood?
Yeah.
Okay, like throughout the presentation, we'll be seeing two terms, MDR-TB and XDR-TB. So, like, can anyone tell me the difference between MDR-TB and XDR-TB?
MDR is resistant first line anti-TB drug. XDR is extensive, that is first line, second line, and fluoroquinolones also.
Yes, MDR is multi-drug resistant, that is resistant to isoniazid and rifampicin. XDR is extensive resistant, resistant to isoniazid, rifampicin, and in addition to fluoroquinolones and second-line injectables like amikacin and kanamycin. So coming to the history, first US FDA granted this drug in December 2012. Later in October 2013, CDC issued new federal guidelines for the treatment of MDR-TB, where these guidelines included that it can also be used in treatment of TB in children, pregnant women, and individuals with any other health complication. In June 2013, WHO issued certain guidelines on the inclusion of bidaconil in combination drug therapy for people with MDR-TB. Later, worldwide, by 2015, the drug was available, and by October 2016, so far 5,700 patients had been able to receive this drug. In India, it was first used in Mumbai in October 2016. Coming to the indication, bidaconil is indicated as a part of combination therapy in adults with pulmonary multi-drug resistant tuberculosis. Then marketed product, it's available as tablet 100 mg. Trade name is Cituro. Coming to the mechanism, it is a diaryl quinoline antimicrobial drug that inhibits proton pump of mycobacterial ATP synthase. When the ATP synthesis is inhibited, generation of energy in Mycobacterium tuberculosis is inhibited so that the bacteria dies. Pharmacokinetics, absorption Tmax within 4 to 5 hours. Effect on food when taken with food, bioavailability increases by twofold. Distribution protein binding greater than 99.9%. Volume of distribution 164 liter. Metabolism, it is hepatically metabolized. The main enzyme involved is cytochrome P3A4, which metabolizes bedaquiline into N-monodesmethyl metabolite, that is M2. This metabolite is 4 to 6 times less active in terms of mycobacterial potency. It is extensively excreted through fecal. Renal excretion is very less, non-dialyzable. Half-life is 5.5 months, both for the parental metabolite and M2 metabolite. As I already told you, there are certain criteria for patient to receive bedaquiline. If the patient meets up this inclusion and exclusion criteria, then only we can give the patient this drug. The basic inclusion criteria is patient should be greater than 18 years of age with diagnosis of pulmonary multi-drug resistant tuberculosis. Additional requirement for inclusion is female should neither be pregnant nor be using any effective non-hormonal based birth control methods. They should be willing to continue participating in birth control method throughout the treatment of period or have been menopausal for postmenopausal for past 2 years. That is, female should neither be pregnant nor be having any plans of conceiving throughout the treatment. Then patient with controlled stable arrhythmia can be considered after obtaining only cardiac consultation only. Coming to the exclusion criteria, like those patients who have uncontrolled cardiac arrhythmia that requires medication, a marked QT prolongation, additional history of torsade de pointes, history of optic neuritis, chorioretinitis, uveitis. Then certain laboratory these are certain laboratory abnormalities and the range. If the creatinine is greater than 1.5 times the upper normal limit, hemoglobin is less than 6.5 gram per deciliter, platelet count less than 49,999, absolute neutrophil count is less than 749, AST greater than 2.5 times, ALT greater than 2.5 times, total bilirubin greater than 2 times, lipase greater than 1.5 times. If the laboratory values are meeting up this criteria, then we cannot consider the patient for treatment with bedaquiline. And electrolytes like calcium, magnesium, potassium should be corrected before starting the therapy. Coming to the dosing, in case of multi-drug resistant tuberculosis regimen, as per WHO recommending a regimen, it should be composed of at least pyrazinamide and 4 second-line drugs that are considered to be effective based on drug susceptibility pattern. Bedaquiline is indicated if such a regimen is not feasible. Normally, it should be composed of pyrazinamide and 4 second-line drugs. If at all that this regimen is not favored, then only we can give the patient. We can consider the patient to give bedaquiline. When this regimen is not feasible, is in vitro resistance to fluoroquinolone or second-line injectables, known adverse drug reactions, contraindication or intolerance to any of the combined drugs, unavailability or lack of granted supply of drugs. If any of the, because of any of these reasons, if we cannot go for the above regimen, then we can consider the patient for bedaquiline. And now once we consider the patient to give bedaquiline, we'll be making the subgroups. Following subgroup of patient will be eligible. That is multi-drug resistant or rifampicin resistant TB with resistance to fluoroquinolones and second-line injectables. This is first category. Second comes extensive drug resistant TB. In that again we have 4 subgroups. That is resistant to all fluoroquinolones and second-line injectables, all fluoroquinolones, any second-line injectable, all second-line injectable, any fluoroquinolones, and again any second-line injectable resistance. And treatment failure of multi-drug resistant TB plus fluoroquinolones or second-line injectable resistant, treatment failure of extensive drug resistant TB. This is how we'll be dividing the patient. And based on this subgroups, we'll be considering the patient like how to treat the patient. We have different regimens. If the patient comes under the first subgroup, Then we have different regimen like which drug to be considered and for how many months. That we'll be seeing in the next further slides. Now coming to the dosing in case of adults, we have dosing in three different divided ways. That is 0 to 2 weeks, 400 mg. We have this bidaconil drug marketed as 100 mg tablets. So 4 tablets of 100 mg should be taken daily, plus optimized background regimen. This optimized background regimen are three other agents. Bidaconil is in combination with at least three other agents. So this optimized background regimen is what the other three agents. Then 3 to 24 weeks is 200 mg, that is 2 tablets of 100 mg, 3 times a week plus other three agents. And coming to the week 25, that is start of 7 months, that is towards the end of the treatment, continue any other second line drug, second line anti-TB drug only as per RNTCP recommendations. And 1 second. Can you all see this?
Yeah.
As I told you, we have different subgroups, right? Like MDR or rifampicin resistant with fluoroquinolones, resistant with second line injectables. So this I'll be sharing with you in the group. These are different resistant patterns, different subgroups. When it is resistant and different subgroups, in intensive phase and continuation phase, which drug to be considered and for how long is there in this table. You can just go through. I'll be sharing this table particularly. And regimen with bidaconil for failure of regimen of MDR TB plus or minus fluoroquinolones and second line injectable resistance. This is how the treatment should be considered. This I'll be sharing. You can go through. And most importantly, before the bidaconil is to be given to patient consent should be taken beforehand itself. And in the first 2 weeks, patient need to get admitted to hospital. That is because this drug has many adverse effects also. Like to manage them, first two weeks, patient need to get admitted to hospital. And in case of children, same dosing regimen goes with the children above age of 12 years or 30 kg or greater. In smaller kids, safety and efficacy is not established. Dose adjustments, renal impairment, mild to moderate, no adjustment is required. Severe or end-stage renal disease requiring hemodialysis or peritoneal dialysis can be used with caution. If used, monitor for adverse reactions of bidaconil. Again, hepatic impairment, Child-Pugh score A or B, no adjustment is required. If it is severe, Child-Pugh score C, like it is not studied, can be used only if benefit outweigh risk. And hepatic, like how will we get to know whether the hepatic impairment is worsening or not? Seeing aminotransferase, if it is greater than 8 times the upper normal limit and total bilirubin greater than 5 times, and if this abnormalities are persisting for longer than 2 weeks, then we need to discontinue the therapy. Pregnancy and breastfeeding category, fetal risk and infant risk cannot be ruled out. Okay, drug interactions. We'll be seeing further in the adverse reaction that bidaconil has this QT prolongation effect. So may prolong QT interval, assess thoroughly, and if possible, avoid co-administration with other drugs that prolong QT interval. And we already saw in the kinetics that it is cytochrome P3A4 metabolizer. It is metabolized by this particular enzyme. So avoid strong cytochrome P3A4 inducer like rifampin, rifapentin, rifabutin, and antiretroviral drugs that are moderate inducers like efavirenz that may reduce bidaconil's effect. Co-administration with this enzyme, cytochrome P3A4 inhibitors, may increase systemic exposure and result in adverse effects. So avoid co-administration with such drugs for at least for more than 14 consecutive days unless the benefit of treatment outweigh the risk. Use bidaconil with caution when co-administered with lopinavir or ritonavir and only if the benefit outweigh the risk. And there are no clinical data on combined use of antiviral agents and bidaconil in HIV or MDR-TB co-infected patients. And only limited clinical data on use in HIV or MDR-TB co-infected patient not receiving antiretroviral therapy. It is taken with food and swallowed whole with water. If a dose is missed, this is something important that we should know properly. During the first 2 weeks of the treatment, do not make up the missed dose, but continue the usual dosing schedule. From 3 week onward, if a 200 mg dose is missed, patient should take the missed dose as soon as possible and resume 3 times per week regimen. This dose, what to do if a dose is missed is a common question asked by the patient. So we have clearly guidelines by WHO telling that if patient who interrupt treatment during first 2 weeks of bidaconal, if the interruption is up to 7 days, bidaconal containing regimen will be continued to complete the dose and duration of treatment will be extended to complete. If at all patient has interrupted with up to 7 days, then treatment can be continued to complete the whatever has complete the regimen. If interruption is more than 7 consecutive days, then bidaconal course will be reloaded, that is started as fresh. You have to start the treatment from the first, and this is in the first 2 weeks when the patient is taking 400 mg daily. Again 3 to 24 weeks when patient receives 200 mg 3 times per week. If the interruption is up to 2 months, regimen will be continued to complete the dose and duration of treatment will be extended to complete. But if it is more than 2 months, we'll have to permanently discontinue the drug. Such patients will be given an outcome of loss to follow-up based on duration of loss to follow-up and managed as per RNTCP PMDT guidelines. We have different guidelines when the patient come into this category, loss to follow-up, then we have different guidelines that has to be followed according to RNTCP. Understood?
Yes.
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 Adverse reactions, we have AST and ALT elevations, amylase and lipase elevation, myalgia, GI disturbances, and cardiac rhythm disturbances. And all these are divided into different grades, grade 1, 2, 3, and 4. Based on that, these grades are based on the values that are mentioned here. So if at all it comes like seeing the ALT and AST values, we will be deciding which grade the patient comes under. If it is grade 1 and grade 2, grade 1 and grade 2 elevation, continue the therapy with monitoring. Grade 3 and grade 4 elevation, temporarily discontinue the therapy. Again, same goes with amylase and lipase. Grade 1 and 2, continue the therapy. 3 and 4, temporarily discontinue the therapy. Myalgia, musculoskeletal and cardiac muscle abnormalities. Grade 1 comes mild with no limitation of activity. Then we can continue the treatment. Grade 2, muscle tenderness at the site other than injection site or with moderate impairment of activity. Then also we can continue the Grade 3 is severe muscle tenderness with marked impairment of activity. Grade 4 is complete myonecrosis. In case of grade 2, 3, and 4, we need to discontinue the therapy. GI disturbances, patient with grade 4 elevation of GI parameters should be hospitalized and monitored closely. Cardiac rhythm disturbances, grade 1 asymptomatic and grade 2 asymptomatic with transient rhythm abnormality not requiring any treatment. Then patient may continue the treatment with close monitoring. Grade 3 symptomatic arrhythmia requiring treatment. Grade 4 unstable dysarrhythmia requiring hospitalization. Then we need to discontinue the therapy. So clinical pharmacist perspective, few things that as a clinical pharmacist we need to take care is, if taking a light meal with bidaconal or any other anti-TB drugs, patient should not consume milk containing products at the same time because calcium present in the milk decreases the absorption. Then large fatty meals should be avoided as these can impair absorption of some of the other anti-TB drugs. Bidaconal may cause a condition that affects the heart rhythm, that is QT prolongation. So risk of QT prolongation may be increased if you are taking other drug that may cause QT prolongation. So that has to be looked into. Then patient needs to be monitored with liver function tests frequently and also myalgia symptoms and closely monitored for the symptoms. Patient counseling. Take this medication by mouth with food. The manufacturer directs to swallow this medication as whole with water. Take as directed by your doctor. Like usually once daily for first 2 weeks, followed by 3 times a week for 22 weeks. For best effect, take this antibiotic at evenly spaced time. Like if you are taking this medication daily, take it at the same time each day. If you are taking this medication on weekly schedule, take it on the same days of the week and at the same time of the day, so that it can avoid confusion, like whether you took the tablet for the 3 weeks or not. Then mark the days on the calendar when can when you need to take the medication. That can help you to take it without any confusion. Then continue to take this medication and any other TB medication until the full prescribed amount is finished, even if symptoms disappear after few days. Stopping the medication too early or skipping dose may allow bacteria to continue to grow, which may result in return to the infection. Thank you. Any doubts?
That was a good presentation, Vino. Nice on bedaquiline, which is a newer drug, but now I think it's no more newer.
Aye, sir.
This was a newer since very recently, but we have something newer than this. Can anyone say?
Predominant, sir.
Yeah, predominant is the newest one, now anti-TB. So before that, we have bedaquiline and delamanid. So good that it is, but in Indian context, it is still not very oftenly used, and still it is costly. Did you look at the cost?
I couldn't get, sir. I looked into it.
It is very costly. Okay, it is very costly, and you know this is not something like 10 days course bout and then over. It is something you have to take for the patient have to take for a long period of time. So even there is a scheme from government of India for this bedaquiline and delamanid. Okay, so they give discounted rate. There is some scheme. Because this is a lengthy treatment, no. So they will. There is some kind of offer arrangement, some privileges there for the patient. So just look at that. So good. Overall, it was very good. Let us look at the reference. What is this? Guideline for the use of bedaquiline RNTCP through. Okay. So most of the things were from that PDF. What you were showing was this only, no?
Yes, sir.
Okay, fine. So the audience, if you have any specific question, you can ask.
I have one doubt actually.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is
One
this
by one,
indicated for extrapulmonary TB?
Interesting question.
No, it is only for pulmonary multi-drug resistance.
Okay. There's no studies for done.
No, specifically only for pulmonary multi-drug resistance.
Okay.
Are you sure? I doubt on this.
Yes, sir. I have read somewhere. I'll share it.
Okay, no problem.
Can you open the inclusion criteria slide?
Yeah.
And then I have one doubt.
Yeah. Yeah.
In this inclusion criteria, basic inclusion criteria, you have written greater than 18 years of age will be is a criteria for recruiting.
Yeah.
But for pediatrics also it is administered. No? So it is off-label
that
or
I mentioned, right? If the child is like 12 years or older and more than 30 kgs, we can consider those patients.
okay? Is it off-label or FDA approved?
You mean
pediatric?
in the children?
Yeah.
Delamanid, can we use in the children?
Only those who are older than 12 years and more than 30 kgs of weight. That is FDA approved.
So what should we use in children? This was actually my next question.
For this particular drug, in children, safety and efficacy studies are not there, sir.
I think this protimanid, which came recently, no? I think that can be used in children. Just check it out.
Okay. And one more thing in this slide itself,
Yeah.
You had written about the postmenopausal and should not be the patient should not be pregnant, and hormonal based control methods should not be like any reason particularly for this.
Reason I'm not so sure.
Maybe it is
Anything related to estrogen.
Yeah, it is. What could be the relation? What we can think of IGPD? This is mechanism is this inhibits that aryl by inhibiting the generation of synthesis of ATP into ATP. So let's look at some mechanism might be there, I guess. You can extrapolate now.
Yes. I think one more slide you spoke about HIV and TB. No?
That's interesting also.
Should we treat both at the same time, or should we treat at TB first and then we go for or discontinue the antivirals first? And first we should treat TB and then we have to give antivirals, or continue both at the same time?
We should always treat TB first.
No, we have
It's
to
not like
discontinue
I
antivirals.
think first or second. Does it go like that? Treating first TB and then.
No, actually, when I saw one mechanism that, like, if we give antivirals with anti-TB, like the CD4 count may increase and the TB can worsen.
Yeah, that's why,
So,
like in the normal cases also, like normally what we see in hospital also, first we'll be treating TB and then only HIV. No?
okay.
After stopping the TB regimen, they will start HIV. You mean?
Yes, sir.
That's that I was so 9 months they have to stop.
That's what I'm not very sure they will stop this.
This
They
doubt
cannot
I
disturb
even
now
asked
because
one doctor.
because this is
and
this
the
is the
reason I
opportunistic
got-
infection. This is one of the opportunistic infection in HIV patient. You cannot just treat the opportunistic infection and leave the HIV.
Sharath, if you remember, we had a patient HIV with TB in Wing 6, and we we had seen the patient. Yeah, even sir had told the same thing. No, first we need to now treat the TB, then only HIV.
Yeah, it can cause iris, but how much time we have to like stop or
Seeing the
temporarily
risk and
discontinue?
benefit ratio, you can
No, first you treat the TB. Does that mean you are stopping a heart?
Sir, Vinod sir was like we have to we can't give antivirus at that point of time.
Then TB will worsen, as Sharath told. CD4 cells will.
Okay, there's something we need to look at. Like we need to see some literature. This is really interesting. How can you manage TB patient who have HIV or HIV patient who have TB? So we need to look at this. If you get any material, please share in the group.
Okay.
Okay.
Any other
Anybody? Okay, and do we have any next presentation, or that's all for this?
I don't think so. No presentation.